Now it's time for today's perspective, and it takes us live today to what is the largest refugee settlement camp in the world, a huge camp of Rohingya refugees in Bangladesh. It's approaching 8 years now since hundreds of thousands of Rohingya fled attacks and violence in Myanmar. Travelling to there this week, a delegation from Australia that's supported by the Refugee Council of Australia in conjunction with MSF, Save the Children and the UNHCR. Amongst that delegation were prominent human rights advocate and former Australian international footballer, of course, Socceroo star player Craig Foster, as well as former Rohingya refugee herself, Noor Azizah, who's co-executive director of the Rohingya Maiyafuinor Collaborative Network and New South Wales Young Woman of the Year 2024. Thanks very much to both of you for joining us on the programme. Noor, I'm going to start with you. We actually spoke to you in Perspective about a year ago here on France 24, but just remind our audience, and for those who didn't hear that interview, you actually fled Myanmar as a child, didn't you, with your family? I mean, what's it been like for you being there in the camp with essentially your people, if you like?
Thank you so much. I've been in the camp for a couple of days now, and when I entered the largest refugee camp in the world, housing more than 1.1 million of my very community, I had mixed feelings. I felt good because I was with my community. I could hear their voices, I could hear my language, I could hear my people speaking, which feels really nice. But beyond that, it was completely heartbreaking because the situation is really dire right now. When I entered, there were children everywhere on the streets. More than 6,000 learning centres have been completely shut. There is no schooling for the children. The women are prone to gender-based violence. Young people are making the sea journey towards Malaysia and Indonesia and making that extremely life-threatening journey. So I'm here now and it's completely raining and my heart breaks to my very community, which is why it's so important that we are here today.
Yeah, we're seeing some of the images, in fact, that you've sent us of the camp there while you're talking. And I know, I mean, it must bring back a lot of memories to what happened to you and what you remember of your story as well, presumably.
Absolutely. I mean, I never lived in exile in Cox's Bazar, but Cox's Bazar remains dear to my heart because this is my community. And the fact that when I fled and left Myanmar, Burma with my family and ended up in exile in Malaysia for a very long time, I could have easily been in a Cox's Bazar. But it reminds me of the resilience of my very people remains today.
Craig, let's bring you in now. I know one of the reasons you're there, obviously, is to help many of the younger people who are there, getting them active, getting them involved as well. Tell us about your role.
Yeah, so it's great to be here with Noor to try and amplify the plight of the Rohingya people, both in the camp and, of course, all around the world. You know, this is, as Noor was saying, the largest refugee camp. Australian government do have a high level of support here, as do Canada. But as you've heard, that aid around the world is declining and there's a real sense of hopelessness within the camp. We've got more people coming across the border as well from Myanmar with a horrific situation there that's unsafe, and people can't go home. So the reason for us being here in World Refugee Week and only a couple of days ahead of World Refugee Day is to try and speak to the world, to say, look, what we see here is simply not good enough. You know, there shouldn't be hierarchies of humans, you know, just because, you know, Noor is a wonderful example, you know, a master's student, a brilliant young woman and advocate, well known in Australia and in fact around the world, one of the most prominent Rohingya voices. But we see children there yesterday and this afternoon and tomorrow with the same dreams, the same capabilities. They're so articulate, so brilliant, and yet the world has left them behind. We're leaving all refugees behind. There's over 32 million registered refugees, and that's climbing every year. So, of course, this is a good example as the world's largest camp for us to be able to say then to the world, we need to maintain, in fact, to raise the funding. We cannot forget the Rohingyas or any other refugees, and whether it's the EU or indeed France or the cuts that we've seen in US aid recently, the impacts are devastating on the people in this camp, and in particular the 500,000 young kids, many of whom are born there.
You're obviously a wonderful spokesman, for the charities there, both of you indeed. Craig, you're also involved in trying to, actually play some sports as well. We've got a couple of pictures that we can show of you joining in some football games, perhaps passing on a couple of tips.
Well, it's so important because, the resettlement to US, whether it's for Rohingya out of this camp or otherwise, has also been ceased. And so therefore you have a sense from the people that, there's limited opportunities now for any refugees in UNHCR camps around the world to actually go to third-party countries. Like Noor has happily for Australia. We're very proud that we're providing, tens of thousands of opportunities for those refugees, but we need every other country in the world to step up. So while they're there, of course, sport is critically important, particularly for the young people. They have the same dreams that I had. They had the same dreams as Kylian Mbappe, of you guys over there, and all of your wonderful French players. They want to dream, they want to be educated, they want to be able to play sport. And unfortunately, the funding is so low that out of the 33 camps, there's a pilot in only 4 camps that are allowing the young boys and girls to play football. And to see the smiles on their faces yesterday, I mean, everyone in Europe, everyone in France, we all know it's a familiar feeling. So it's simply not good enough. I'm delighted to say with a particularly French audience that PSG and the state of Qatar have supported here with some football infrastructure. It's literally a drop in the ocean. Global football is the world's largest sport. It's worth tens of billions or hundreds, and we need to step up. So where are all the other major football clubs around the world? We need more support from FIFA, and we're talking about infrastructure, equipment, and particularly funding. If we have an opportunity to play sport, if we have an opportunity to become a professional, if Noor has an opportunity to become a master's student and well-known Australian, then every single kid who is a refugee, whether here or elsewhere, should have the same opportunity. And if they don't, and they do not, then all of us should be asking ourselves, why is that the case?
Noor, just time to ask you, I mean, you've obviously seen some of the help that is available. As you both say, it's very limited. But how does that aid, how does that help actually help people?
The activities and the aid are completely life-saving. I spoke to some of the girls that played soccer inside this very camp, and it wasn't even a soccer field. It was a closed room, and there was bricks that tried to keep them safe. And now, it's extremely rainy, so there are also flooding happening. But the girls kept playing, and I asked them, do you like playing soccer? And they said, yes. It reminds us that it lets us look after our mental health, but also allows us to build our skills. So when we do go back home, we can also use the skills to contribute to our very country. So a lot of the refugees inside this refugee camp want to go back home, but it's not safe to do so. People might think the genocide of the Rohingya has ended, but it has only continued. In the last year, 118,000 Rohingya refugees are displaced and have arrived in Bangladesh, crossing the Naf River. Some people might also think that this violence was by the military junta, but it is actually by the Arakan army that is led by Rakhine ethnic group. What we have seen are mass killings, rape, arson, and withholding aid and food. And this is just continuing. And we're seeing more women and children crossing this river in an extremely unsafe manner.
Good to talk to both of you. Thank you very much for your time. Noor Azizah, former Rohingya refugee herself, and also Craig Foster, former Socceroo, who's both of them there, to spread the word, I suppose, about the situation for the Rohingya people in Bangladesh. Thanks very much to both of you for joining.